It's a witch hunt. That's how President Trump is responding to the outcry from Democrats over his attorney general's contact last year with Russia's ambassador. In a new string of tweets, the president calls Jeff Sessions an honest man. He says the Democrats are overplaying their hand. They lost the election, and now they have lost their grip on reality. The real story is all of the illegal leaks of classified and other information. It is a total witch hunt. Does the attorney general agree? Tucker Carlson asked him during his exclusive interview last night.
I don't think what was said about that meeting I had with the Russian ambassador was legitimate. I think it was hyped beyond reason, and I think it was unfair. And I was glad to be able to address it today.
Tucker Carlson also asked him about why they didn't amend their statement. Here's his answer.
The question that came to me was from Senator Franken, and he went into a great length saying that that day some new story had come out and said that various Trump surrogates were meeting continually with Russian officials as part of the campaign. I focused on that I had not had any such meetings, was not meeting with Russian officials on a continuing basis to advance any campaign agenda. Sometime before that, I had met in my office in an official way with the Russian ambassador, and so that was the answer I gave.
And then we have these two tweets as well. President Trump tweeting that we should start an immediate investigation into Senator Schumer and his ties to Russia and Putin. You can see there's a picture. A total hypocrite, he calls him. And then another one saying, I hereby demand a second investigation after Schumer of Pelosi for her close ties to Russia and lying about it. And then there's a picture there. So here we go. One more day of the Russia story. Kimberly,
Russia, the country that just keeps on giving, right?
It really does. And I thought the attorney general, by recusing himself, helped put some distance between them and, like, figure out some space and move on. But what do you think?
Well, we did. We talked about that yesterday, and I think that he did himself and the president a service by getting out in front of this story, getting ahead of it. And then he wasn't, avoiding any questions. He went on with Tucker Carlson last night. I talked to Tucker right before he was going to do the interview about, asking some questions about it. So he appears, like you said, we loved the transparency, the idea of it yesterday. He's certainly a man who's learned in the law. He knows what he's doing. And it appears thus far, that there isn't any wrongdoing. And in fact, it seems like this guy has met with quite a few people. And so you see some of the left, the hysteria, the hypocrisy, where they're trying to create and flood the news media with this situation to try, I think, to further delegitimize President Trump and to separate him from some of his closest allies, like they did with General Flynn, and now they're following suit with Jeff Sessions.
Now, you said right before the show started that you have a theory.
I do have a theory.
What is your theory?
I am equally outraged that people are actually talking to diplomats, at a diplomat conference. Next thing you know, you're going to meet a German at Oktoberfest. What's that about? Okay, how do we know? We've seen all of these instances now of Russians meeting with Democrats like Schumer, Feinstein, McCaskill. How do we not know that the Democrats all this time were secretly meeting with the Russians to help destroy Donald Trump? Ooh. You can easily flip this back to them and they go, what? They have to prove what they were talking about with those Russians. So we know that they were, in fact, colluding to get Hillary elected so she could sell them more uranium. That's my theory, by the way.
That's actually an interesting way to just flip it over.
You know what this scandal is? It's like those little nesting dolls in Russia. You keep opening one, and the smaller one comes out, and you open that one.
That happens with the Russian ambassador.
And then you open it, and there's nothing there.
No, the last one is you.
Nothing there.
Oh.
That was unnecessary, Kimberly. You were on my show tonight, but I think I'm going to cancel you.
Oh, yeah, right.
They still, some Democrats, Jesse, are still calling for the attorney general to resign. They're saying this is not enough.
Well, I mean, when Loretta Lynch met with President Bill Clinton while Hillary was under investigation on the tarmac for 45 minutes, they just spoke about their grandchildren. So maybe Sessions should have just said, I just spoke about the grandchildren with the ambassador. Maybe then he would have gotten off scot-free. Listen, they're embarrassed that they lost the election in such a huge upset, and they set up landmines during the transition and now during the first 100 days, and there's leaks like God knows what coming out, and you're getting these 24-hour scandals, so-called scandals, where even Republicans are piling on. You have Chaffetz and you have other guys coming in and saying, oh, you know, he should step down, he should resign. And then 24 hours later, Trump puts these people in a body bag on Twitter and makes a fool of them. And the scandal's almost gone.
No Republican has called for him to resign. They just
no, but they're getting very close
to
that line. And as a Republican, wouldn't you just want to wait to hear from Sessions himself
you don't think, well,
before
we did
you jump on the bandwagon?
From him.
No, you heard a statement at the beginning. But even before he went on Tucker's show last night, you have all these people coming out demanding he recuse himself. Okay. Let the guy speak. At least watch Tucker Carlson.
Well, what's interesting is that actually he said on Tucker Carlson last night, Juan, that he was actually thinking about recusing even before because they had a scheduled meeting yesterday morning that just happened to coincide with the breaking of this story.
With his own staff, and the staff recommended that he recuse himself. And guess what, Jesse? You have Republicans all over saying that he acted properly, and they're glad he recused himself.
Well, listen,
so,
he
I mean, that's
came to
an
the swamp,
amazing, that's a step by Republicans.
Politically, like Kimberly said, that might be good in the short term to give some space to the scandal and set everybody up. But at the same time, this is a brass-knuckle president who doesn't really cower to the establishment. I expected him to say, you know what, we're not recusing ourselves, get lost.
Even when the facts showed that he had met with him.
That's not going to help.
So he met with him. He was imprecise in his language. I remember Clapper came out and testified under oath that they didn't spy on Americans' phone calls. No one asked him to step down.
Everybody in D.C.
has
met with this Russian guy. This guy's been around town more than Bill Clinton's tongue. He's met with, I mean, have you seen, this guy is at every party. He's at every opening.
Yeah, he's doing his job, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're missing the point. You're missing the point.
He was at the State of the Union address with the Democrats.
Yes. But nobody is denying it, except Jeff Sessions says, oh, I don't remember. Guess what?
So where's the scandal?
Or all of a sudden, Jared Kushner says, oh, yeah, I was in that meeting with Mike Flynn and the ambassador. Or we're suddenly here, oh, yeah, so many people in the Trump administration, or Trump campaign, or associates of Trump had series of meetings with the Russians. I can't believe that you guys don't think, hey, maybe there's a pattern here. Maybe there's something suspicious going on.
I did say, remember, before he became president, I said we had to keep track of the Russians.
That's true.
Because the whole point is, the person who gets the most out of this is Putin. It's all about disruption, creating instability internally and externally.
Yeah.
It's to prove his own nation, his own country, that democracy is on its way out. That's all it is. So we have to be careful. But at the same time, we also have to be aware that this is nothing. Talking to a diplomat, I understand. You always have to watch the Russians.
But why are they allowed to do it and Republicans aren't? It's like, do as I say, not as I do.
It's not the meeting. You can meet with anybody you like.
Yeah.
It's that when you start concealing it or denying that you had the meeting.
I think that we remember it was a bait and switch. They were asking him about whether he was meeting over Trump's campaign, and he said no. And they had said, did you meet with him during your role as an armed services chair?
Look, even he said he should have been more forthcoming. He should have slowed down and thought it out.
Maybe so.
But last night, Tucker Carlson said to him, hey, what about your staff after you testified?
Right.
Didn't anybody come up to you?
And written testimony.
Well, yeah, don't forget.
As well, because that does go through staff.
That's right. And Senator Leahy of Vermont asked him in writing about, did you meet this? And so why didn't the staff help him out, Greg?
Actually, you're answering
they weren't as good as the staff on the 5, Juan. The 5 staff
Kimberly would have caught that.
No, but you know what? You're answering your own question.
Oh, how's that?
Because if the Trump campaign was truly colluding with the Russians to win an election, you'd think they'd be better at hiding it. I mean, their own candidate stood up in front of thousands of people and said, hey, Russians, could you look into Hillary? Do you think if they were actually colluding, he would have done that?
You say the Trump campaign's a bunch of bumbling idiots. Do you think they orchestrated this international conspiracy to rig an election? Come on, Juan.
I didn't say that, first of all, but I think that the
You've been saying it the last 9 months.
No, it isn't. No, I don't think they're bum. All I'm saying to you is I think that you are confusing the idea that someone purposely, or he may not say this intentional, but it sure looks like several people have intentionally concealed their relationships with Russians. And, of course, the threat here is...
And to what end?
That's the point. That's the point.
You know
so did the Trump campaign coordinate? No evidence whatsoever. And the threat would be that the Russians have something on President Trump, that they have somehow penetrated the White House and they have now control of our foreign policy.
You know what? See, we're upset because you're such a hypocrite.
How's that?
Because when Hillary was letting the Russians take all the uranium, you didn't say anything.
My God.
When Bill Clinton was getting paid $500,000 from Moscow, you didn't say anything.
Right.
You know what?
When Russia was going into Crimea,
a moment ago you were...
You only care about Russia on November 9th.
Oh, get out of town.
After
but you know what?
your girl lost.
A moment ago, you were so complimentary of the 5 staff, but I'm going to personally deliver your copy of the National Enquirer in the future, because that's where you get your information from.
Okay, Juan, I'll give you my tin hat back that I borrowed from you.
What is the next step in the investigation? There's like 4 investigations. Catherine Herridge has reported that, and it could take a while. So then how do they figure out a way to answer those questions but stay on message?
I think they're going to be able to stay on message because already, because of his transparency, the fact that he's been answering the questions, he right away recused himself. I don't believe that he had to do that, but he didn't in an abundance of caution to not create a problem for the president. That's what I believe his intentions were there. I think this is going to proceed along. I do not believe, and let's see, investigation will come forward. With what we know right now, I do not believe that there's something that's going to come out of this. And by the way, maybe the Democrats want to take a look in their own house because they seem to be huddling all around him at the cocktail parties, eating pigs in a blanket with the Russian guy.
Let me just respond very quickly to your question. I think that where this goes from here is that Richard Burr, the senator from North Carolina, who's head of Senate Intelligence, is going to try and get this thing moving to hold on to it. I don't have much confidence in what's going on in the House. But the problem for Burr is that Burr was so close to Trump during the campaign. He was campaigning with him.
So you can ask for him to recuse himself,
but
too?
the pressure is for a special prosecutor. And Democrats haven't asked for it yet. The question is...
There's a really good piece in the Wall Street Journal today that says that if you are wanting answers on this, don't let it go to a special prosecutor, because that's what, if there's nothing indictable, then everything gets suppressed and it will never see the light of day.
Right. And well, the problem is the Democrats are right now saying if you let it stay in the Senate Intelligence Committee, then there are no public hearings. Information could be hidden away, and that they want it out in the open.
You know what? But I have to say, most of America is hearing right now noise, and we have to remember. We have to remember what happens during a commotion. Stuff you don't see coming. You ask yourself, how come we didn't see bin Laden? Because we had a commander-in-chief embroiled in scandal. And so we have a lot of amazing threats around us. Artificial intelligence, we have large-scale cyber attacks, we have the rise of apocalyptic terror. Those things are here. It's not going to be Putin and Sergei.
Well, by the way, who was at Obama's White House 22 times.
Because that guy's upset. He was doing. I guess he was doing his job. Putin must be happy with him.
I'd rather have him there than Al Sharpton.
He got a good review.